guess we'll get started here. Looks like we're running a little bit over on time, but that happens sometimes. So it does run over. So I can make this about 3 minutes long if we want. So anyhow, again, my name is Jody, and I'm gonna tell the story of this restoration on the Stinson Reliance, referred to as a V77. And by the way, just so you guys know, Randy Phillips is he's recording all of these presentations. They'll be put on our YouTube channel. So it's a great resource to be able to go back and revisit some of these. But I'll just start off with some quick facts. This isn't all of them, but to kind of give you a background of the V77, and I'm sure Randy, you can set me straight if I'm wrong on this, but the Stinson Corporation was commissioned by the U.S. government to build 500 of these, and this was part of the Lend-Lease Act that was in 1942. They went into the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force for the British. It was the predecessor of the SR-10, so they just redesigned the SR-10, improved it, and they did some modifications by lengthening the fuselage, and the wings aren't heat treated like the SR series, and changed the cowl up just a little, and then they also increased the useful load. But after the war, of the 500 that went over, 350 came back, and they sold them as surplus, military surplus. Today, I think there's only about 92 or in the 90 range on the FAA registry, and it's estimated there's somewhere around 25 of them flying in the world of the V77s. This is not the SRs. So, pretty accurate, Randy's? Yep. Somewhere in that neighborhood? Yep. So, and I wanted to throw this out because this is what a lot of them would have been painted like, but also there were the Wasp that were delivering some of these as well. So I don't know if you can notice it, but look at this. It had a wood blade on that. What's that called, Randy?
ERCO.
ERCO. Okay. Yeah. And
those were instrument trainers, weren't they?
What's that?
Those were instrument trainers. Did they use instrument trainers?
Yeah, they used it for a lot of different things, but for instrument and hunting subs and I don't know, moving all kinds of things. I think, Randy, you're going to talk on some of that, aren't you?
Bit,
yeah.
Primary navigation.
Navigation. Okay.
Observer Corps.
Yeah, and I know you told me where this picture was taken, but I can't remember.
Jericho, Trinidad.
Trinidad.
52 Squadron.
Okay. All right. And is that the same place?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Pretty cool to see some of these old pictures of the old V77s out there. So here's the earliest picture I could find of my plane. This was in California, and it went to Pennsylvania shortly after the war, and then made its way to California, where it changed hands a couple times. This was a contractor who had it, and they painted it up like this. But also there was a crop dusting company that used it, and they also got an STC to fly with the door off so they can have jumpers jump out of it. And so it stayed in California up through the early 60s. And then it transitioned to an Alaskan bush plane. And may not be able to tell, but if you can look at the rudder, you can see where they've got some duct tape on it. And then at some point in time, they changed the paint color. Or, I don't know if they recovered, but that's what it looked like when it was in Alaska before it came back to the lower 48. They did have one mod that they put on it, was they made a cargo door that opened up right here. And so, and there's two pins that you can pull the center post out that hold that door closed, and you can just stuff it full of, whatever you can just pack in there. I'm sure they put lots and lots of things in there, but it was kind of a, just a Alaskan bush plane. The previous owner had it restored in 2007, and this is what it looked like there. And this is another picture of it.
Where was it based at that time?
It was based in Lake Charles, Louisiana. So when he bought the plane, and I'll show the owner in just a minute, it was painted that red and white, and then they flew it from Alaska down to Louisiana. And that was the owner there, Ed Martin. So in 2015, Ed passed away. His daughter Kay, who's sitting next to him, was the what do you call the trust or the executor of his estate, and they had been trying to sell the plane, and had came close to making some sales, but it never seemed to pan out. Well, oh yeah, here's what the back seat looked like at the time, and there was a panel. But in August 20th, 2020, Hurricane Laura, Category 4 hurricane, hit Lake Charles with a direct hit of 150-mile-an-hour winds. This picture was posted actually by the National Weather Service, I believe it was, or the Weather. No, it was the Weather Channel. And here's another picture.
Is that a British museum or something?
So he also had a chipmunk and what's the other there? A tiger moth. Yeah.
They're all British used airplanes. That's a B-77s in Britain. I just wondered if it was a museum for British airplanes.
No, he flew all these planes. Yeah.
This is his private collection.
This is his collection. And so there's 3 steel trusses that hit this plane. One here, one there, and one there. And I want to say probably if it would have been other planes, they may not have survived, even though this was pretty bad. There's just another picture of it in front. Yeah. So, about 5 weeks later, 6 weeks later, Hurricane Delta hit, and this plane was tied down. So they got it out of the hangar, and it was tied down on the ramp, just like this. Notice the tail is not tied down. So not only one hurricane did this go through, but it was 2 hurricanes.
Oh, man.
This is the way I kind of found it. And you can see what the panel looks like. It was just, it was in very, very sad shape. So we started dismantling the plane. And I know you guys have seen at least one of these guys here, but Eddie Stewart, he loaded up his truck and trailer, and Forrest, he actually flew down, but they helped take this plane apart, so we could trailer it back. And so at the time, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. Because, the story was a friend of mine who knew that, at some point I'd kind of like to have a little, a gull wing. And he knew that. Well, Kay, she had, when she found out, okay, the insurance company was going to scrap this plane. They were going to cut the engine off and scrap the plane. She said, my dad would not want that to happen. And so she sought others out to see if they would be interested in this plane. And so two other organizations, CAF and a museum, both turned it down. They said it's just too far, more than what we'd want to do. And so, but he says, I think I know a guy that might be interested.
I've got a sucker.
So anyhow, I flew down and met her, spent about 4 hours talking to her in Austin, and then flew over to Lake Charles, and then I looked at it there and said, okay, I'll take this on. And so we're used a forklift to remove the wings. Again, there was no hotels there. Eddie slept in his Sequoia.
This is
I slept.
how long after the hurricane?
This is only like
This was in
4 weeks.
Just a month later. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, so the second hurricane hit in October, the 1st of October. This is at the end of October here.
Okay.
This is like the,
October 30th.
yeah,
When I took a picture of it sitting on the trailer.
yeah. And I got it home the 31st or the 1st of November, one of those two. But anyhow, so it was just a few weeks after this. And yeah, we got it put on the trailer the 31st, somewhere in that neighborhood. And it's kind of interesting when you're going down the road with a plane on a trailer, you get some interesting looks. I can't tell you how many guys that would come up and they would just sit there on the interstate.
And look.
And they would look at it, and then you saw them take out their phone, and it kept driving. Oh, and they'd stop, and then they just kind of went on,
In fairness, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, but we're airplane guys too, so.
Wings, another trailer.
Yeah, so because of the length of the wings, there's no way that you could put both wings on the same trailer, and we took the whole tail off of it, and
Would they even fit between the wheels?
no.
Okay.
No.
They're cords too deep.
No, they're essentially about at their widest point a little over 8 foot. At their widest point there.
Did you have
So
to suck the gear in to get it to fit on the trailer?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So took a come along, sucked it in. This is right on the edge of this trailer here, and in fact the fairings that hold the wheel pants, they're sticking over. So technically I was over with. But I loaded up and left probably around, 1 o'clock
Yeah.
in the afternoon. We left Lake Charles, and I pulled in at my house at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's a drive.
So
Where's your house?
I'm in Oklahoma.
Northeastern Oklahoma.
Yeah. So I took some roads that would avoid, rough roads and things. So I kind of took a little bit of a long way around to get there. But I think it was like 13 feet to the top of these antennas.
You have
Yeah.
you made a jig to hold the tail up. I can't see it.
It's sitting on the tail wheel.
It's sitting on the tail wheel.
On the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I got any more pictures of that or not, but yeah, it's just sitting on the tail wheel there.
There's something red behind it.
That's a trailer.
That's another trailer.
Semi-trailer in the background.
Yeah. Altogether, there was somewhere about 30 different planes that got destroyed. I think there was a fairly new Pilatus that was in a hangar next to it, and it got destroyed. But since there were no hotels, we had no choice but to
We
you know,
roughed it.
pitch a tent, which we didn't have, but we
They
did what
wouldn't
we
let
have
us
to.
stay inside the fence at the airport. We had to be outside.
Although I will tell a story that
Somebody might.
I
have got
fell
it.
asleep in the pilot's lounge, and they locked the door at 10 o'clock, and I was still asleep. And I think I woke up about 1 o'clock, and I thought, if this has got alarms on it when I get ready to leave, I'm going to make a run for the truck here. So
Get the forklift.
the forklift was on site there, they were using it to repair hangars that was there, and so they were kind enough to say, yeah, you guys could use that. If you can operate it, you can use it.
But you
So-
didn't know that going down.
Didn't know it going down.
Okay.
One of those things we're going to just try to find out, or wing this, as we'd say.
No pun intended.
Yeah. So, as you can see, we got some really nice mattresses here.
You could have slept
We
So,
went dumpster diving and
we
didn't
went-
even have to get in the dumpster.
yeah.
Hard to find those, didn't it?
So,
Oh, there's stuff laying everywhere down there.
yeah, folks were cleaning out their houses, and we just made use of what was there. But that's how we got the wings back. Well, after I had this in the hangar and was starting to go through it, I call up a guy who's been doing my biannuals and talking to him a little bit, and I said, he said, "What are you working on?" I said, "Well, I got a V77. "Oh, well, I know where one of those is at." "You do, huh? Okay. Well, tell me about it." And he told me, and it's only about an hour and a half from my house. He said, "This thing has been there since I know in the 60s. I said, "Okay." So I was able to track down the owners. The original owner had passed away, left, there's like 13 planes there that to these two grandsons that they've known about this plane ever since they've been, growing up. And so I went and looked at it, and, and it's sitting on top of a 150 there. And there's a bird dog right next to it with the wings off, an L-19. And I made a deal. I said, "Well, I need these parts. I need, so they were kind enough to sell that. And, the wings were literally chained up in the top of this this building here. So,
Are they straight?
yeah, in fact, one of the wings is on the plane now. So, we probably should have had a safety harness on and some PPE.
Pretty precarious.
What could go wrong?
But, yeah, it's like, hold my beer, watch this.
Yeah.
So, that was the only way we could get these wings down. They were just way up there, but they were in pretty, decent shape. Leading edge was a little bit beat up, but this guy had bought this plane in the early 60s, and he had thought he was going to just have it recover and restore it one of these days, and it never got around to it. And there's a second story to this that Randy Shields. So after I got all what I needed off of the plane, pretty much the dorsal fin and the turtle back here was mainly what we used. Randy was working on one and said, "Hey, I'm needing a fuselage." And so Randy is now restoring his plane with this fuselage and putting it together. And so this plane actually helped two other planes get back in the air, or will be two other planes getting back in the air. So,
Question on that. How do you decide what end number you use? This silly question, but I need you.
so I think in Randy's case, that's going to be more or less a logbook entry of changing that over.
We're actually gonna stay with the original end number, not the one that goes with this fuselage.
Yeah.
But
Pretty
so,
much
so it's
what-
not tied to a certain part or anything like that. Like
Right.
you can kind of, it's just the data. But what if you don't have? Because like there was a Traveler 3000 or something, but they found just like a tiny piece of it, and they were able to rebuild the whole thing out in California.
Yeah.
So any
Talking
part.
about data plate, not the end number.
It wasn't a data plate. They didn't have the data plate, but they had pictures of it that they somehow were able to. I don't know.
Well, I think on the V77s, there's only one place possibly on it that has any kind of a serial number, or does it not have a serial number?
No, that's it. It's right on the trim bracket, but it's more just a hull construction number. They were never issued data plates because they all went directly to the military. When they came back after the war, the government just said, "Take this shit." And so the data plates you find today pretty much just stuff guys made and stuff on.
Okay.
Some
Yeah.
were done in the forties after the war, and they're civilianized.
Yeah.
They never formally had a data board.
Yeah.
Fuselage was a used service of the board. It's just local, used service of the board.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I know.
So, April 1st is kind of of 2021 is a bit of a historical date of this restoration because it was the first day that we took the plane out of the hangar, and I took it to Ken Howard's hangar that's in Collinsville, Oklahoma. And Ken wanted to be here, by the way, but he had a family medical issue. And anyhow, wish he could have made it because he's the biggest part of why we got this plane going again. And so you can kind of see this shows a little more of some detail of, this dorsal fin was completely chopped off. This was badly damaged. We have, I think it's right there. There's one of the tubes that had to be replaced, and one other right up here.
You just had to replace 2 of the tubes, is it?
That was it.
That's amazing.
So, and I think I've got maybe a couple pictures. So here we have the turtleback all put back on. I mean, it literally just unbolted and bolted right on the other plane. And then, everything was stripped down. And you can kind of see what it's and Ken kind of looked at this for, he said, at least a month, if not 2 months, trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to tackle first on this? So I can see when you get up close to this, that they're a monster. They're really, really big. And I threw a couple pictures of, this is I think this is an aileron here. It's flat. Okay. We took this down to the bare metal, epoxied it, epoxy primered, and went back. So there it's kind of coming along. Repairs are made, and it's getting ready for the fabric. By the way, would anyone like to guess how much fabric we used on this?
So it covered a barn.
Is it square miles?
So, how much fabric is on a 108? Does anyone know?
I just bought the slip covers for mine. I don't know how much fabric is involved.
I think is it 32 yards of fabric? Okay,
Sounds about right.
80 on this, isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah.
So, about 80 yards of fabric to cover this plane.
Use 101 on that or 102?
Yes, something like that.
Use the heavy stuff, the real heavy fabric.
It is a medium heavy, yeah, medium fabric, yeah.
You didn't use the stuff looks like candles.
No.
It's got 102 on it,
Yours is
So-
102.
the medium grade.
Yours is 101.
Yeah, I think
On the
those
wings,
are.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's Stinson?
So, December 31st was the date that Ken started the covering, and he started on the side there.
That's 72-inch wide, sinking down.
Uh-huh.
So you had to blanket that with 4 blankets.
Yeah, so we did the bottom, the top, the other side, so both sides.
There's no way you could wrap it around. It's too big.
No, you couldn't.
So you use 4 pieces.
The system that we used was AirTech. They're located in Arkansas. So
You use the Randolph door.
Do you like their primer?
the primer's actually really, really good.
But you gotta treat it right, right? 'Cause that's what my aircraft's done in it. You gotta let that primer gas or you're gonna get a crummy finish to it.
It'll work.
I know that it sands really nice, and quickly. But Ken would be the guy he's the one who sprayed all that. So, and Steve knows a lot about it because he's there at AirTech where formulate the paint, and they do restorations there and all.
If you're having trouble with AirTech, you need to call Robbie.
Well, I mean, I've done minor repairs, but the construction manual just makes a big deal about their primer having the gas off for 4 or 5 days. Don't put any finish on it. And I followed it, but the original refinisher didn't. And if you go look at 5 kilo out there, you're going to find little tiny pimply places all over it, which meant he never let the primer get off.
What's the AirTech? I'm a little bit familiar with it. What finish do they use? It's not like butyrate finish.
No, it's
It's a polyurethane.
It's a
Urethane,
Yeah, just like the others. System 7.
single stage urethane.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's what the, as we're moving along, the finish tapes are not on, but you can kind of see.
Always looks pretty when they're shrunk up like that.
Yeah, there's Ken. I caught him in action there.
Jody, maybe you said I missed. How did you do the bottom of it? The bottom of the fuselage?
Yeah. So,
Just laying on your back?
so yeah, you literally glue one
Okay.
side on
Okay.
here, and then you glue the other side, and then you take and start shrinking it, pulling it down, and finish your gluing, and then put your stitches and so forth on it. What you're going to do there.
Oh.
Same thing on like the side. So Ken, he glued. You can see where it's glued here, and then just starts pulling tight. And
See, the bottom, there's no way you can wrap it around the launch rod. So you just had to bond it to that aluminum fairing.
Yep.
That
Bond it to that, and then finish it on the sides, and then it's re-glued every time.
Normally they say you should wrap it around the launch rod and glue it, but you just stuck it to that aluminum.
I think he wrapped it around. Yeah, he wrapped it around.
It looked like he glued it right to that aluminum part.
As long as you have a 2-inch overlap, you can put the structure.
Yeah.
Some are different than others, that's the kind of system.
So another historical date was April 14th of 2022. That was the day we pushed it into the paint booth, and we started the primer. During the meantime, I finished another wing, and
That's the left wing there?
that is,
That's the one that was crunched.
yes.
Did you have to go back to the spar to fix that? I noticed the crunch was on the leading edge.
This the
That's
one you
bridge.
replaced?
This is the wing I replaced with the other plane.
Okay.
So,
Same mattresses?
yes.
They dried out.
Yeah, same mattresses. This is the AirTech epoxy primer that we took it down and brought it back up there.
How bad was the other left wing?
So we had to make a repair on the wing tip.
Now, this is the one you replaced, but it looked like it was crunched, that you didn't get back to the spar.
How bad was the wing that was on the airplane that you replaced?
Oh, okay. So
It was pushed in pretty bad at the front of the fuselage on the leading edge, wasn't it?
yeah.
And
So from about the front to about a quarter way down or third of the way down, it was just crunched in.
Did you get to the mounting points where it mounts the fuselage?
No, it hit because these formers and the ribs come in and form this front here, and so your spar is right here.
Yeah, right. It's a bridge, steel bridge.
Yeah,
So it's repairable.
it is repairable. Yeah, and I still have those wings, or that wing, and then I've got the other that matches this one. Let's see. And so you can kind of see here the widest part of this wing, they're about this wide. So I mean they're pretty thick. Compound curves everywhere. They taper thick and then they go thin, and so
So that had the heat treated spar. I know some
No.
of the earlier ones had spar failures, center section.
so the SRs, to my knowledge, was the only wings that were heat treated. The V77s, because they were military, were not heat treated.
So didn't they have a failure problem on the, one of the SRs, the wing failed at the catch point because of the heat treat?
That I don't know. I couldn't say for
A long
sure.
time ago.
It was the SR9, and they had it was a manufacturing flaw where it attached the
Right.
and then they figured it was two overseas airplanes, and they figured it was a construction, and they put the
Well,
airplane back
well,
together.
yeah.
Well, part weldment, and then part, they reassembled the airplane a little incorrect. Which had us stressed, so they lost a couple of
I
legs
read
on the
a
SR9.
story about that.
How many
And-
gallon fuel tank?
What's that?
How many gallon fuel tank?
36 gallons. Is that right? 36? Yeah, 36 gallons, yeah. You can see the other wing that we've got in the rotisserie there. And I kind of threw this in because the flaps are vacuum. And this is the actuator can that the flaps work off of. And it's either all or nothing. So when you put the flaps down, they're coming down. You know,
There's no 10, 20, 30?
no. And you know, takeoff, you don't use flaps on this plane.
Is there an interconnect between the wings, or is it separate actuation for each side?
Separate, yeah. So there's one on each wing like that. So there have been guys that have had failures of these, and you'll get quite a ride
Yeah.
from what I've been told.
It's not fun.
It's called a roll.
So we had to put a new boot cowl on it. The other one was crushed, so we, I say we, Ken fabricated one, and then as you can see, the firewall. This is from all the holes that they used in the previous. So I had a stainless overlay constructed with a mirror finish put on it for the firewall.
So the old one's still in place?
It's still in place. It's just that is covering up all the old holes and all.
Does that make the oil run off quicker?
Yeah. It keeps the oil from running inside the cockpit.
It's still that shiny, right?
It's a Lycoma.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So was the engine damaged in the hurricane?
So that was the $1,000,000 question right there. The best I could tell was never hurt, never turned. When I got the engine off, went ahead and had the magnetos overhauled, put on the Jasco alternator, had the carburetor overhauled, had the prop overhauled, did a few other things to it like the the distributor caps and the rotors, had all that overhauled by radial engines. And so I did pretty much everything to the engine that could be done short of taking it down. Yeah. And so
Are you running the same prop that was on it?
same prop that was on it. The engine was 600 hours on it, so I felt pretty confident in it. I thought, okay, well let's do this, put it on here and see what happens. Okay. So far the engine's running great. But yeah. So on December 14th of 2022, we hung the engine. That's the oil tank. You can see this is the alternator. There's the magnetos. It's actually a single but dual magneto.
Single drive?
Yeah, it's a single drive, but it has two magnetos on it. Yeah.
How many gallons of oil does it hold?
I think it's like 4.5 gallons, 4.25, something like that.
What's it
So
burn?
4.5 gallons.
yeah, so I'm still trying to figure all that out right now. So I'm guessing somewhere around a quart an hour roughly. But it also leaks oil too. So.
Well, 165, they do worse than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then August the 20th, we put the first coat of paint on it. We started striping it out, after several other coats. There's, with the doors off, you can see what kind of a opening you've got there.
That's a modified.
Yeah, yeah. So they put the cargo door on it back in Alaska.
Is that just a field approval?
Yeah. Yeah. So we finished the fuselage in October the 2nd, 2022. So that's it's almost a year past, where we did that. And then we dry fit the cowl. So I did use the other cowl off the other plane. The one that was on it was badly damaged, and so rather than just completely overhauling that, we use this one. And by the way, these cowls are all custom built to mate with its original mate there. You cannot mismatch these cowls. You can't take one half off of one and another half off of another and make it come together. So.
And are they gold wing cowls? The top parts open up?
Yes, yeah. You can see here, so it hinges at the top. So kind of like our 108s, you can quickly open it up. Just takes a little more effort here, but yeah, you can open it up.
And a step ladder.
Yes, yep, for sure. This is the other wing. We just finished that. Here's with the primer on it.
That's a urethane finish, is it?
Yeah.
So I just used a Randolph on one of the new Randolphs owned by, he sold out the Stitz, I think. But they're dope. I was going to clean it. I had some cracks. It surprised me. It's 3 or 4 years old. And I went to clean the wax off of it to put some rejuvenator on it. And regular methanol alcohol you buy at the hardware store. I went to clean the wax off and I took the paint off. And that's supposed to be hot fuel proof. The new butyrate is not the same formula as the old butyrate. I don't know if people know that. I didn't.
Okay.
I don't think I'd use butyrate again if I did another one. I'm curious about your process.
Okay.
That's probably more pliable. I've seen that, the old Blue River where it was real soft, that water-based.
Yeah.
I don't know, do you think about different coverings when you did that, or just?
Yeah, I kind of started searching out different processes, and then I ran across Robbie with AirTech, and the more I talked to him, and thought, okay, well, first off, he's in Arkansas, and I'm not too far from him, and I go there to Little Rock on business often, and so I was able to save myself a little money on shipping.
What did Dave's gone? Grant, we had a friend that did his, and the fuselage paint and the metal paint didn't match. Fade, it looks like a Pinto now, 2 different colors. So that's a flaw. Maybe the new stuff is better.
So one thing with the AirTech is when you spray it on, it'll go on the metal and the fabric, and you don't have to change it up any. So, and if you want to get a custom color, they can custom blend you what you want.
I'm just curious, the new stuff, they don't tell you the changes they make. There's no way to know it.
Right.
You ask somebody who's tried it.
Yeah.
And I was always kind of a butyrate finish, but I'm kind of turned off on that right now.
And you can see we started laying out the second paint there, the blue that's on the wing, and that's what it looks like with it.
Is that an original style paint, or is that something custom, your design on the graphics?
So it is of the same era of like the SRs, where they would have been painted similar to this, since this being a military V77, and I didn't go back that way. I wanted to make it, a civilian.
Similar to that era.
Yeah, and try to keep that traditional look that they had going back then.
Did you know what you were getting into when you started that?
No. And I think Randy Phillips and I talked for probably 4 hours one night, and there was a little bit of some alcohol that was involved. And now
Gold mine bigger.
somebody, if I wish somebody would just shook me and just said, "Do you really know what you're getting yourself into?" But at the time, I did not.
It's better that way, you might not have done it.
So
Any Stinson, it's far more difficult to cover than most airplanes, because it's got just too damn many little bits and pieces.
yeah, and Ken has done from Stearman's to Stagger wings, and he said the V77 is harder to cover than a Stagger wing.
That's, Stinsons are just that way.
So I'm not sure he would want to do another V77, but
A lot of curves.
yeah.
You get all this tape lines, you get all your seams straight, tape lines straight.
Yeah, his fabric work is beautiful. So, and encourage you to go out there and look at it. So, May 21st this year, we got the first wing on it. And June the 25th of this year, we got both wings on it.
How long did it take you to start to finish?
That would be like 26 months.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Are you really finished now?
I don't think you ever get finished with these planes. No, we still have the headliner to put in this plane, and there's a few other little things that we're going to do, but for the most part, it's flying. And
That's commendable to do it in just a little over 2 years. Most people would take 7, 8.
Yeah, and I think it depends on just how you want to go about it, and there's nothing wrong with taking however long you need to. I know I saw Randy Phillips playing here a couple of weeks ago when I was up in Minnesota. Probably the nicest V77 original looking plane that's out there in the world. How many years did it take you to restore that, Randy?
23.
It's more like it.
23 years.
But a lot of that was researching the British equipment.
Yeah.
Getting the old wiring, to run to their old radios, to make the fabric plates, and just to do it the way the British had it.
You have the military.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's military.
Yeah.
British radios, British headsets, everything.
Yeah. At one time, I had over 9 shops doing things on this, and I was kind of project managing it. So yeah.
Full book, checkbook.
How many times over your original budget did you end up?
I haven't calculated all of that
Don't-
yet. Don't.
don't.
I will tell you this. I have a 3-ring binder that's this thick
Receipts.
that is nothing but receipts, front and back, and they're doubled up, so, and then I started another binder. So I got all this, that I could just go back on and
You
take a
obviously
look.
have a big hangar.
Yeah, so the wingspan is 42 10 inches,
Almost
so 43 feet.
43 feet for all practical purposes.
So
You have to have a 50-foot hangar.
yeah, it's got to be a big hangar. So, Randy, how long have you been working on your V77?
6 years.
6 years. So, one thing I've got to say about Ken is, when he started, he jumped all in, and he worked, almost every day, and I'm kind of in the background working as well, and so may not been physically there, but there was work going on. But and then I jumped in when I could to show up on weekends or weeknights. Let me go back. So we ran the engine on July the 1st, and the first test flight was July the 16th. That was on a Monday. Our plans were to, obviously we want to go to Oshkosh, and we're going to leave on a Friday to go to Watertown, and found out some weather was coming in, so we pushed it out on Thursday. It was literally putting bolts in the seats, bolting it down, loading the plane, and we pushed it out of the hangar. So we finished it signed off on it, and we brought it to actually Quincy here was our first stop.
Did you do the test flight?
I did.
Did you get some time to type beforehand?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So the type that I got time in was the SR9. Yeah. This is the first V77 that I had flown or ever been in.
Are they pretty similar?
There's a lot of similarities there. There's some subtle differences in them. The fuselage is about 2 foot longer on the V77. There's some changes. I think Randy's going to talk about that in his presentation, aren't you? Yeah. But yeah, they're different, but they're kind of the same animal too. That's it. So.
That's trusting your word.
Yeah, thank you.
And they did make it to Oshkosh, and they got a lot of attention there.
So yeah. Although I will say this, that we won an award there, but they called that an SR8, and yeah, so I've got to talk to somebody about correcting that, because it's not quite.
I know who you should talk to, so.
Let me know. Okay.
Jody, if you had to do all over again and you wanted to acquire a B-77, would you do what you did or find something that was flyable and then rebuild it or work on it?
Well, here's the deal. Guys that have, and this is my first restoration to ever go through. You know what you got at the end of the day and how this thing was put together. Not only was it a lot of work, but it was an education.
Sure.
So that's what you're going to learn by doing this. You know how this thing is put together. There are planes out there flying, very, very good planes that are, for sale. They're reasonably priced, I would say. If you just want to jump into it, go search. Go find one of those planes.
What prompted you to get a B-77 rather like an SR9? I mean, they don't build it.
Well, I mean, this one just kind of fell into my lap. The owner called me on it, and that's kind of how this came about. But no, the SRs, the SR8, 9, even the 10s, they're really nice planes.
The 9 having a round windshield. The rest of them yours has got the flat glass.
Yeah, so the SR10 had the flat glass. I think most of them had a flat glass, except for the 9s. They had the curved, and that's a very attractive glass too. But they just took the SR10 and then just kind of worked off of that, off the drawings, to develop the B-77.
Have you kept in touch with Ed Martin's daughter?
Yeah, I have. So her name's Kay McNutt. My plans are to go to Ranger Fly-In. It's the first weekend in October, and I've invited her there. And so on the original cow, it had Ed Martin, who was a colonel, on it, and I kept a piece of that cow, and I want to present that to her at this fly-in and take her up for a flight in it.
You're going to make her cry.
So, I will say this, I have not shown her pictures of the color since we put paint on it, but I've kept her up to speed of the plane. Yeah.
That's so cool.
I'm thinking she'll approve.
I'm thinking she will, so yeah. But it's been a fun project and still learning. I think I figured up I have 32 or 33 hours on it as of this morning when I did my logbooks.
So Nina finally get her husband back then?
Did she want him?
Oh!
Yeah. But so, time permitting, I think tomorrow, if you'd like to go for a ride in it, I'm going to offer rides. We'll go up and, buzz around a little bit. So just let me know if you want to go up.
Can I ask, again, a silly question, but the gull wing, why, so it's short and thicker, is that like from an aerodynamic thing? Like what was the theory behind that?
So, that I don't know the entire answer of. I know Randy could probably answer that better than I would be able to.
Yeah, we'll talk about the differences thing, but that wing shape came from the tri-motors that they built. And the engineer was trying to come up with a higher performance, a more efficient wing. That's what he designed. And then they basically put that tri-motor wing on these later Reliance.
They just made it prettier back then.
Yeah.
The low.
Yeah, not like
Yeah, with the strut on top.
So that's kind of where it is, to make the tri-motor better perform.
But also with a manufacturing standpoint, I think a lot of manufacturers got away from doing some of these because they were way more intricate.
Oh, 100%.
And they were able to
And
produce
they
a lot
didn't
more
have that.
airplanes with
Yeah.
straight wing stuff and
Yeah.
push them out. I mean, even,
And the performance wasn't significant enough.
and modern, some of the modern design is a little bit different too. So these are obviously more beautiful. but-
Yeah.
Nobody ever comes up to that ramp and says, hey, is that your warrior over there?
Yeah.
How gorgeous, right?
So I've got a little over 1,600 pounds useful in this plane.
Wow. Is it a 5-seater?
It technically is a 5-seater, but that would be 3 in the back seat, so that would be a little
It's
tight.
really comfortable for.
Yeah.
72 gallons fuel total then, 36?
76. Yeah. And it grosses out at 4150.
It's an option.
So it's a heavy plane, and it usually takes a couple stout guys to move it around.
It burns more than 10 gallons an
I'm coming in about 8 gallons an hour on
hour.
it. No, I'll just double that.
On final.
Yeah. So I have a donation jug somewhere around here.
Those rides tomorrow aren't free.
So
So-
the Stinson dues.
Oh, yeah. Hey, if you've not signed up, I'll take your no. But
This year,
what's that?
fees are going up.
Yeah. But yeah. Any other questions?
Cool.
So cool. All right. Well, thank you.
Do you have plans for wheel pants on it at any time?
Say again.
Wheel pants? Did that come out with wheel pants?
No, it never came out with.
Never came with wheel
Yeah.
pants, okay.
Nothing bellish.
Are you
Yeah.
gonna put some on it?
Yeah. There's wool pants on it.
You just don't have them on right now?
No, they're on it.
Oh,
out
they
there.
are?
Oh, I'd say that they are wheel pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? Never mind.
Those are the fiberglass.